Whew, Berwick. Somebody got the memo that new construction was selling. We have two major subdivisions that were seen last night at the planning board meeting. So first we started out with public comment that there was no public comment, and then a public hearing. So the public hearing is a chance basically for the public to be heard. Traditionally, it's not a back and forth with the public. It's a recording of public comments that the board will later take into consideration when making conditions on an application. But here we go, public hearing. So there was a public hearing on the Woodland Pond Cluster subdivision. That's the one with Alley Pond and Johnny Lane that everybody's pissed off that I sent a postcard about. Apparently, even the code enforcement officer is mad about it. So there was one person that came up for public comment, and there was a lot of talk about the environmental concerns. Apparently there is an endangered Blandings turtle out there, nesting site out there in what will be the middle of the road. That member of the public asked for another traffic study to be done during warmer weather when these endangered species are actually out and about. And then a request to restrict the number or restrict farm animals within the covenants, because this subdivision does abut wetlands, and that would be an effort not to pollute wetlands. The vice chairman then closed the public hearing, but later on reopened the public hearing. I just think that it was probably prematurely closed, because we'll talk about that in a minute. So then the Woodland Pond Cluster Subdivision came back up. Just so you know that a cluster subdivision allows for, because there are two cluster subdivisions on the agenda, a cluster subdivision allows for smaller lot sizes, so more density, which usually makes it cheaper for the developer to build because there's less roads, less infrastructure to get in, rather than having big lots on sprawling acreage where they have to bring big roads and bring utilities in, and that costs a lot of money. So it's cheaper for developers to build cluster, and it benefits the town because there's more open space, which is something that is in our comprehensive plan. So the engineer came up for that. They're putting in a new dry hydrant. They're adding a gate to prevent vehicles from accessing the wooded abutment, I guess. And then the engineer is going to be speaking to IF&W about all of those endangered species. Then we saw another major subdivision. Now this one is the preserves at Rolling Meadow, which has been seen in 2021 and 2022. As a matter of fact, when I was on the board, when I was chairman of the board, we saw it. When I was on the board just as a member, vice chair, we saw it. It came back. That one is the one that is on Pine Hill Road and also connects on Knox Lane, the big Merrill, was it Merrill? I forget the name, but the farm. So that's in the R2 zone. Whew, this one's a doozy. That one, the last time we saw it, it was preliminary approval. That was a couple months ago. I want to say it was in October, maybe prelim approval they got for 26 units. They've come back. They have more than doubled the number of units. So now they want 55 units of elderly housing. So they did find a little, they found something that they can do to basically up their density, which means that shrink the lot sizes. They're doing elderly. So 55 and over houses. They've got a plan for 55 of those, sidewalks all the way to downtown. They do have to have a 50-foot landscaped perimeter as part of the cluster ordinance. Because this, now, so they have to start right back at square one. They don't even have an application in. This was just a preliminary meeting, just to kind of go over things. Because this one's going to have more impervious surface than the 26 lots that were previously proposed. The stormwater management has to be revisited, traffic study has to be revisited, everything has to be revisited, including your public hearing is going to be redone, including your site walk is going to be redone. So they're starting from scratch again. We're going to see the whole thing again. So then the developer did get up and say that they are looking to do stick-built houses, about 1,600 square foot on slabs. That's going to be pretty expensive. We're building 1,600 square foot ranches right now, and those are upwards of $500,000 to $600,000. So that's a lot of money to put on 1,600 on one level, 1,600 square feet. It's a lot of square footage. Anyway, interested to see what the those are going to be in those prices, and if that's going to be affordable for elderly housing. So then we closed that public comment, which actually turned into a public hearing. So public comment came up, and basically it was the Alley Pond, Johnny Lane neighbors getting up. They just didn't realize that the public hearing had already happened. There was concerns about the notifications to the abutters, about site walks and whatnot. Apparently everybody's mad because I read a planning board agenda and watched the meeting and saw that they were doing this, and I just notified the neighbors that, hey, you're going to have major construction in your neighborhood. I represent a subdivision right across the street from me where we're putting in 14 houses, and there's an established neighborhood there already, and it caused a major disruption to those people. I'm just telling people what to expect. That's all. You can be mad all you want at me. I'm just doing the construction vehicle traffic, which is a viable concern. Absolutely. The vice chairman of the planning board said that if it is an approved use, that there isn't much you can do to stop development, because somebody asked about stopping development. So besides buy that property, code enforcement reinforced that and says that there's nothing you can do and the project will go on. And then the vice chair did say that there will be another public hearing. So he did wind up opening up the public hearing again at the end so that it could go on. Question on, there was another question on readdressing the minimum lot sizes, because if somebody owns gigantic amounts of property in a town, you know, what can they do with it? They can just put it all into house lots. Yes, they can. There was concerns about water quality. And then the vice chairman of the planning board did say that limiting building permits is on the scope of the planning board and the board of selectmen. So that's something to pay attention to, keep an eye on. If you are a builder, sounds like you should start pulling permits before they start limiting those. And just keep that on your radar if you're a developer. So then there was that was it. They opened that public hearing back up so they can hear it again. And I watched that 58-minute or 55-minute meeting, so you don't have to. If you've got questions, shoot me a message.